Hi there, my name's Eric from Together Learning, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how you're going to conduct yourself when you start to take all these online courses, or more of them, in this current health crisis climate that we're in right now. So for a lot of you, this is your first time actually going online and having a class together with other students and teachers. And I'd like to share with you a lot of tips, a lot of, not necessarily rules, but guidelines to help you get the best experience for you and for everybody else in those classes with you as you start to learn together in these online settings. So we're going to talk about online learning etiquette and several different parts that go along with that. Just like face-to-face, when you go to class, there's a couple of very simple guidelines that we follow to make sure everyone has a voice and everyone understands each other and we all are able to learn better. And the same thing is true online. So I'd like to talk with you a little bit about those etiquette guidelines right now. Well, what is this face-to-face online meeting? It's any time that we get together at the same time, at the same place, to see each other's faces and to talk with one another, much like we did in class. There's other types of online learning where you might have to log in and check a message board or watch a video or maybe do an assignment. But this is mainly talking about those times when we have to hop in as a class and have some discussion, maybe listen to your teacher give a lecture. And we used conferencing tools, teleconferencing tools, like Zoom or Amazon Chime or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet is a very popular one. Big Blue Button also. So anytime we this etiquette rules, these guidelines, we're going to talk a little bit about how we're using this software and some of the ways that we can have a better experience when we use these tools. Right. Online teleconferencing needs some calibration, which means you have to set up your equipment a little bit more carefully, but especially before you use it for the first time. So you're going to want to see if you have a strong internet connection. If you don't have internet connection or you have spotty internet connection, you're going to stutter a little bit in class. You might not be able to hear the teacher as well because your internet connection will come in and out. So try your best to find a place that has strong, reliable internet connection. And if that's at home, maybe turn off all of the other things that are using the internet connection. Turn off things in your background on your PC that might be using that internet connection that takes away from the bandwidth that you might want to use for your video and audio for class. Next thing, you're going to want to set up your microphone so you can hear your voice properly. An easy way to do this is to see which microphone you're using and record yourself very briefly, play it back, and see how that sounds. You don't want it too loud, but you also don't want it too quiet too. And also, it's very dependent upon how close your face is to the microphone. As I get closer over there to my microphone just over there, you can see that makes a big difference as well. Your camera is also very important. Make sure that you got kind of eye level with your camera so we can have that face-to-face eye contact that we like to have and when we go to class together and we talk when we're actually in physical proximity in one another. You want to make sure your background is nice and clean. Many times it can't be helped, but maybe you're doing laundry and you have some hanging underwear or something in the background. That's not very nice to see. It's embarrassing for you. So be mindful of what's behind you when you hop into these classroom meetings, and maybe test it out by looking at the camera beforehand, checking your equipment. The biggest thing that can distract us from being able to converse and talk online is feedback. Feedback meaning a loop. Sound comes out of your speakers, goes back into your mic, and it goes in this loop, and we get this these screeching sounds. It happens all the time, especially when we get together for the first couple times when we meet. A simple way to avoid that is to use headphones. Another way to avoid it is to keep the volume low on your device and use the same device for your microphone and your speakers, so it can negate, the software can help negate that feedback loop. If you're using some speakers, excuse me, if you're using some different speakers and then a different microphone, that happens much more easily. So the feedback from one device goes into the other and it goes around and around a loop and we get that screeching sound. So try to use the same device. If you're an iPhone user, you have the headsets with the buds that have a microphone built in right in there. Those are great to use. Those sound great both for you and through the microphone for other people. Those are great as well. So check your equipment. One of the first steps. Next, we want to look at the schedule. Now, scheduling for online classes for many people is very similar to how we conduct things for regular classes, right? Everyone has a set time and they're expected to show up at a classroom at some point and then class will begin. Some of your teachers will conduct classes in that same fashion, so you're just expected to show up and know the schedule and where to go, just like you have to know what room to go to at what time during the week for your face-to-face classes. So you have to make sure that if that's the case, you know when and where to find the schedule. But sometimes the meeting might be irregular, meaning your teacher may only want face-to-face conferencing with some of you in groups, or maybe every other week to cut down on the time that you have to spend in front of a camera. Therefore, you might get an invite via email or some online platform like Manaba or Microsoft Teams or what have you, Google Calendar. So you'll have to keep an eye out and kind of be aware of what your teacher is using to send you an invite. And if you do get an invite, it's good to RSVP yes that you'll be there for that. And try to show up early, 5 to 10 minutes early for that recording.